Welcome back to the Food on Demand podcast, where we dish up insights on the future of food. I'm Bernadette Heyer, Managing Editor.
And I am Adam Wahlberg, Associate Editor. A quick reminder, do sign up for our weekly newsletter with lots of good stuff that goes out every Thursday morning. So subscribe to that and make sure you register for our upcoming Food on Demand conference, not far away.
Yes, it's right around the corner, so please get your registrations in early. You won't want to miss it. That's May 5th through 7th, once again at the Bellagio in Las Vegas. And we have a really exciting agenda that's now online and live on our website on foodondemand.com, so you can check that out and see what we have planned for you all. You know, we always say it's a great spot to learn everything you need to know to boost your delivery business, from catering, working with delivery providers, to understand the right tech stack to streamline your operations, and so much more. We're actually kicking off the conference with a keynote conversation with Adam Brotman and Andy Sack of Forum 3. And they've spent the last year speaking to some of the world's biggest tech leaders, from Sam Altman to Bill Gates, to understand where AI is taking us. So they have some great findings that relates to the restaurant industry planned. But that's enough from that. Let's get into our quick bites today, Adam. What's been sizzling in your kitchen this week?
All right. Well, this week I had a chance to tuck into the latest State of the Industry report produced by Q. And the results were quite interesting. 40% of respondents said first-party digital ordering is going to drive the biggest revenue growth for them this year. 40%! I mean, that's a pretty big jump from previous results. And it's not surprising when you think about it. First-party ordering is kind of the holy grail for a lot of restaurants and their delivery operations. You know, more money. But it's also not easy to do. So the question is, will they be able to get to this number that they wish? I mean, it's great if they can, because they can grow their revenue without expanding their market size. But we've seen a lot of stories through the years about brands wanting to grow their first-party ordering, and you also hear that it can be tricky. We'll keep an eye on that. 40% is quite a high number. Another thing that came through in the survey results were about kiosks. They are becoming more and more popular. 62% of brands said they're using kiosks, but it's in the way that they're using it as of right now. That's kind of interesting. Most of the utility and the value that's coming through in the survey results are that, it helps operations, it helps with labor efficiency, things like that. But what came through in the results is not so much that it's helping to make more money, which is surprising, because some brands like Shake Shack, they're actually showing a margin lift pretty directly due to kiosks. So it might just be that we're still kind of early stage in kiosk adoption. Maybe some of these brands just need to get used to it and see where they can unpack some additional revenue. It seems like they like it. It seems like more and more want to use it. My guess is, I think we're in next year's results, we might see more brands are saying, hey, we're making a little bit more money. But by and large, kiosks are popular, and I think they're going to remain popular according to these results. So thanks to Q for them, and that's what I'll be keeping an eye on. Back to you, Bernadette.
Thanks, Adam. Yes, and we'll actually be diving much deeper into those findings from Q in an upcoming podcast episode with Q CMO, Jennifer Kern. So we'll dive more into that. She has some interesting perspectives on that data about kiosks and revenue drivers and so forth and much more. So stay tuned for that episode. But my item this week is Yum Brands, which is the parent company of Taco Bell, Pizza Hut, KFC, is teaming up with tech giant NVIDIA to bring more AI to its restaurants. Now that includes AI voice agents for drive-thrus, computer vision for efficiency, and analytics to help managers make better decisions. And so testing has already started at Taco Bell and Pizza Hut, with plans to expand to 500 locations across multiple brands by Q2. Now, this is nothing new. It's no surprise. We're going to keep seeing and hearing more about this, especially from big brands with the budget to invest in it. But, we always hear how AI and this tech can help with upselling and ease labor shortages, but we all know it's not without hiccups. Some pilot programs haven't gone as smoothly as others, for example, McDonald's partnership with IBM for their AI voice in the drive-through ended, as some customers have posted on social media complaining about issues with order accuracy at drive-throughs using AI voices. However, as these systems continue to get trained, restaurants can expect this to improve over time. And it can be, assumed that NVIDIA and Yum Brands partnership is probably some top tier AI powered technology there that might work well for them. So we'll keep an eye on that as they roll it out across locations. But yeah, as mentioned, it's a kind of a tech heavy announcement from both of us this week, Adam, as always, but we'll always keep you all updated with where AI is heading. Well, that's all I have today, and now we'll get into our guest interview. All right, it is now time for our guest interview with Cynthia Hollen. She is the CEO of Mavin. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Really excited to have you on the podcast. I know you spoke at our conference last year, and now I'm looking forward to kind of bringing some of that insight to the pod. But before we get all into your role and what you do, can you give me a bit about a background and what led you into your current role today?
Absolutely. I've been working in e-commerce for my entire career, starting with when Bloomingdale's asked me to help them figure out what it meant to be able to sell in e-commerce and how is it that we're going to sell a $5,000 dress on a website. And from there, thinking about working with major retailers, from vitamin sellers to fashion companies, how is it that we can sell to customers on their catalogs, in store, on mobile devices, in social devices, really channel by channel by channel, understanding what consumer demand is and the mode that customers want to buy on a different device. How do I want to buy differently on a phone? How do I want to buy differently on a website? And when the car companies called me 4 years ago and said, we're trying to figure out how to make commerce work right on this great, big, giant, beautiful touch screen that we have in the middle of all of these new cars, and we can't figure out what customers want. You know how to figure out what customers want in the next channel. Tell us how to sell to customers in this new channel.
Yeah, no, and that's really interesting, especially considering your background, which was not in restaurants and now innovating the restaurant sector. Anything else that made you particularly interested in the restaurant world, or just this convenience factor that comes with Mavin?
Well, besides that, my entire career has been in e-commerce across selling everything. I actually grew up in the restaurant industry.
Oh, really?
My mother was the general manager of the Old Mill Inn in Spring Lake Heights on the Jersey Shore, and my sisters were both Culinary Institute graduates and restaurant owners, and I was waitressing and hostessing in restaurants from way before I was legal to be doing it. So my entire family grew up in the restaurant industry, so I know it backwards and forwards and love it.
Yeah, that's amazing, especially when I interview folks who had that background or grew up working in restaurants. They have a different perspective they can bring to the table. So leading into your role now, can you just give me an overview of what Mavin is? You kind of dove a bit into that already, but for anyone new listening who hasn't heard of you guys.
Thank you. Mavin On My Way Commerce is a marketplace that allows customers to easily find and buy and get food, groceries, and more while they're driving. Hey, Jeep, I'm hungry. Okay, Cynthia, your favorite cheeseburger can be ready for you in 10 minutes, 10 minutes down the road. Should I order it for you, pay for it for you, and let them know when you're pulling in so they can start the French fries?
Wow, yeah. That's fascinating. So, can you tell me about any restaurant partners you have on board now, and maybe just some examples of, like you just mentioned, when it comes to ordering with them?
So we're going live in Audi and BMW and Volkswagen in March, and we will be launching with some early restaurant partners that we'll be announcing in the next couple of weeks. But we are fully integrated with Olo, we're fully integrated with Checkmate, and we have the ability to onboard. We're working with companies like delivery.com, Virtual Dining Concepts, Reef Technologies, etc. So any restaurants that are part of those platforms can easily be available if they choose to be in any of the cars that we're launching, in the millions of cars we're launching in the next couple of months.
That's really exciting, and I look forward to following that journey. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but does this have an AI component to it, or how does the tech kind of behind it work when it comes to voice ordering and how it gets dispatched to the restaurant?
So AI is a lot about understanding what the customers want and being smarter about figuring that out. And
Right.
e-commerce has always been about AI. We just didn't call it that. We called it personalization and recommendation. So
Mm.
100% the foundation of knowing what you're going to want is so much more important when you're driving than it is even when you're on your phone or your website, because what customers tell me over and over and over again that they care about when they're on their way is don't make me think, don't make me do math, don't make me make decisions. So if I say, hey car, I'm hungry, you better come up with 3 recommendations for me that are what I want, because I'm not going to pull over and use Yelp. I'm too busy. So I've
Mhm.
got to get it right, mostly because you've told me what your favorite is, not because I'm guessing. But if you haven't told me your favorite, the better I can guess, the more you're going to love me, for sure. Now, voice, of course, is a component of that. I need to be able to say, hold the lettuce or extra cheese or find me a chicken sandwich nearby. Those things are getting better,
Mhm.
harder to do when there's trucks driving past you, and those are necessary. But interestingly, customers are really telling us they don't really want to do a whole bunch of thinking of new cool things. They want to find their favorite sandwich that they might not know that there's a Panera 2 blocks away that they don't see the signage for, or that there's a Chick-fil-A around the corner. But they do want to quickly have you find it for them and know what it is that they always get.
Right, and of course that also relates to remembering where you ordered before, or if you're a frequent customer there, being able to, hey, let's reorder my meal from last time or something around that.
So deep integration with our restaurant partners will allow us to do that. In the
Yeah.
very beginning, all we'll ever be able to do is give you a recommendation for the top 5 most popular things at that restaurant, which is all a restaurant can do to a stranger who pulls up to a drive-through. But imagine pulling up to a drive-through 5 minutes before you get there with a menu board that's only the things that you want. What
Mm.
that does for the restaurant to allow them to anticipate the demand, to allow them to eliminate all of the delivery costs, to allow them to perfectly time the food. Because when a car says I'm going to be there in 5 minutes, the car's going to be there in 5 minutes. When I say I'm going to be there in 5 minutes, who knows when I'm really coming, right?
Yeah.
All of those components, the deeper the integration we have with the brand, the better we can make their operations and their customer delight, and frankly, improve their margins.
This is why I want to highlight you guys, because food on demand, we're always talking about convenience, whether that's delivery or just attracting and retaining the digital guest, or when it comes to consumer behavior wanting convenience. And so I'm curious of what you see in with consumer behavior, how they've adapted to the idea of in-car ordering, but also just as we see this shift of consumers craving convenience. And we see, for example, delivery is still sticky, where some thought it would go away after the pandemic. And it seems consumers are on the go. And what have you seen on that end when it comes to their behavior?
Well, step back a little bit beyond the last 2 years and look at the
Sure.
last 4 years. What has happened is that we've gone from an industry where bleeding edge technology adopters would do a pre-order and almost everybody else would either go and stand in line or some of them would get delivery. But at this point, the idea of going and standing in line at a restaurant and then waiting while they prepare it for me is barbaric, right? No one wants to do that anymore. So the consumer expectation is, if whether I'm getting a delivery or I'm doing a pickup, or sometimes even when I'm doing dine in, I
Mhm.
want the ability to avoid some of those line components. Now, we were at a place where 2-3% of retailers were even capable of taking a pre-order in 2019, and now it's
Mm.
well more than 90%. So you've had a shift in consumer behavior that would have otherwise taken a generation. and a shift in retail technology and operations. Just
Mhm.
forget about the technology, the ability for the in-store staff to be able to handle people doing pickups instead of ordering at the register is a decade's worth of evolution that happened in, frankly, 6 months.
Right.
So we are at a place now where that great big giant interactive screen in my vehicle is a place consumers are saying, why doesn't it do this for me yet? Because I'm trying to use my phone to order in my lap while I'm driving. And that's clearly, one, illegal and not safe, but more importantly, does not work at all. It's
Mhm.
too hard, it's too confusing, it's too many choices. So consumers are telling us 75% of the time they would rather do pickup than delivery if it were easier.
Mm.
So I don't want to have driven past my favorite restaurant on my way home only to have it delivered after the fact. I don't want to remember 5 minutes before I get to the grocery store that I should have let them know that I'm coming to pick up my regular order before I get there. But if I don't remember before I leave the office, if I don't remember before I pick up the kids from the school, it's a little too hard to do unless I can just say, hey, Audi, have my groceries waiting for me when I get there. And that's the consumer behavior that we're hearing over and over and over again from professional drivers, traveling salespeople, from
Mhm.
moms to commuters. Just tell my car to take care of these errands for me. And frankly, I will buy more.
That's really interesting, and I'm excited to see this continue to adapt and be taken on by more restaurant partners, as you mentioned. Yeah, especially considering, cars are computers now, and they essentially have a giant computer right there in front of you. So why go to your mobile phone? It should be able to all be integrated. And so I agree with that as we watch that unfold.
That's exactly right. And it's becoming a lifestyle device already as you have moved from using your phone for your entertainment and your messaging to this big, beautiful screen. And what we see is that every time a new function comes to this screen, and cars are having 12 screens now, right? There are screens for the kids, screens for the passengers, screens for everyone all around, heads up displays to tell you where to go. The more that functionality makes your erranding life easier, the more you're going to see that move. But I think the more we're going to see even more functions than just your basic food pickup move to that space.
Yeah, and that was my next question for you was, are there any other verticals or industries beyond restaurants that you might see Mavi's technology in the future?
We look at the technologies or at the products that customers are buying with 15-minute commerce now, the
Mm.
things all decided we so urgently need in the next 15 minutes that we're willing to pay more, and know that convenience on top of being able to get it quickly are those brick and mortar or in-store or local shopping experiences that I just want to have more efficient. And those start with food and beverage. They move into grocery quickly, but then customers are telling us, if you could have my dry cleaning ready when I get there, if you can facilitate returns for me more easily, if you can tell the drugstore that I want my refill on my prescription ready, if you can make a restaurant reservation for me in a neighborhood, in the restaurant I've had on my wish list for all this time that I suddenly find myself with the opportunity to visit, then those are the additional kinds of location-based
Okay.
decisions and location-based transactions that you tend to make in that 15 minutes before you get there time period, where you're really trapped with no ability to do an effective transaction at that time. So all of those pieces fall in there.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I look forward to following where you guys head next. Anything I haven't mentioned in general about Mavi, or if anyone listening is interested in learning more that you'd like to touch on?
So onboarding restaurants is actually really pretty quick because we have integrated with a lot of the POS and order management systems. So to be able to go onto Olo or Checkmate and
Mhm.
say, turn on the On My Way platform, we have a team that can work with the restaurants to what we call curate down the menu to a driver safe and friendly 10, 20 products that fit. It doesn't take more than a day to get a nationwide set of products and locations live in any of those platforms. And we have a pretty good flexibility to integrate across a lot of different food categories. We will be moving into the loyalty piece, as you said, with favorites in phase 2 in the fall. But we really welcome retailers who want to be in the beginnings of working with our car partners, not to get on the platform for the cars, but to look at some really exciting promotional opportunities where our car partners are looking to do some super innovative things in restaurant, in car dealerships, in television and social media, where we can marry a car brand together with a restaurant brand that fits a consumer desire. Are some of the fun things we're working on right now.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you mentioning that. And that makes sense when you talked about working to help them streamline their menu for in-car ordering. I'm sure that's an important piece of it. And as well, I'm excited to see the loyalty unfold because, as you mentioned, I'm sure there is exciting promotions and abilities with the car partnership. So,
Really
yeah,
critical.
awesome. Well, thank you so much, Cynthia, for diving all into Mavi. Before I let you go, I just have a few more questions about just being a CEO and a woman leader for an innovative tech company. What would you say are some of your biggest learnings that you've had so far in this journey, or anything you'd like to mention that you've found along the way?
I think leadership is, there's so many things that stay the same over time, but there are a lot of things that have changed, especially in the last 4 years. Some of them have to do with not just remote work or in office work, but the entire way that people expect their lives and careers to function differently because they've oriented their lives to be more flexible and modular. So where there are people who thrive in that kind of a work environment, it's a world where you can find some of the best skilled people who match with both your passion and their knowledge at the right time in their lives. And they don't have to be necessarily right in your same city, but it means finding ways to connect with people so that you are still always functioning as a team and you're always all bringing the best of each other's skills to the table. So that's been a really fascinating change in leadership in the last several years. I think that the fundraising environment has been very, very different in the last 3 years than it was for the last 15 years as well. So as a old school run a business to make money person, I actually appreciate that there's been a much greater focus in the fundraising community on operators and real businesses and real ability to run profitable operations instead of sort of the sexy things that have cool KPIs, but not necessarily fundamental to what consumers care about. So I always care about, how is this going to make me money? How is this going to make consumers' lives better? How is this going to make businesses' lives easier without them having to think and without them having to plan? And that's something that I think for a long time has been missing in innovation and technology because it didn't need to be there. And now it does in a much better way. And I love that.
Well, thank you for sharing. It's amazing advice, and I appreciate that insight. Just a few more fun questions for you, Cynthia, to get to know you better. What do you like to do for fun, or any hobbies outside of work that we might find you doing?
Well, as I said, I grew up in a restaurant family, and my mother was a chef and a restaurant manager. So no set of hobbies would be complete without being a total foodie. So
Yeah.
I'm from New York, and I currently live in Miami, where a lot of my New York chefs have come. So constantly going out and exploring all of the new offerings that are being brought to the Miami area. And of course, unique Miami cuisines has been amazing. And I'm also a sailor. So
Ooh, wow.
love getting out on the ocean, getting in the river, and spending the day in a place where there are no computers
Right.
and technology and nothing but your brain and your sense of the wind and your ability to figure out how to not be bored and not float out to sea.
Yeah, I'm sure it's nice to disconnect in that way, given your roles in technology. And that's amazing. I love asking this question because I always get interesting answers. So, Sailor, that's so fun and unique. Do you do that often around Miami then?
I do try to sail at least once a month. I wish I could do it much more, but I am running a tech company right now, so.
Right. Little busy.
I watch the sailboats go by my window every day. I'm very jealous.
Yes. Well, I love it. Last question for you, Cynthia. Is anything you have coming up you're particularly really excited for, looking forward to, that could be work related or not?
I have cars launching with my product I've been building for years in the next couple of weeks. So I'm very excited to be sitting in cars with actual real life customers, watching the technology, watching them go to the restaurants, watching them interact, and really seeing this come to life. We're so excited.
Well, thank you so much for sharing everything today, Cynthia. That's all the time we have today, but be sure anyone listening to reach out to her or her company with more questions, and we're happy to direct you as well if needed. So thank you again for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.